From the Blues Hotel Collective, welcome to Blues Moments in Time, where every groove holds a memory and every moment echoes the truth of what came before. Today, we rewind the reel, trace the footsteps, and revisit the chapters that shaped the blues. Here is our host, Kelvin Huggins.
Welcome to Blues Moments in Time, the podcast dedicated to exploring the rich history and the cultural significance of blues music. Today we're diving into the events that shaped the blues on January 9. Let's start with the cultural landscape. January 9, 1964, the streets of Panama City erupted. Panamanian students marched toward the US-controlled Canal Zone, carrying their national flag and demanding the right to raise it alongside the stars and stripes. What began as a symbolic act turned into a violent confrontation with Canal Zone police and US troops. By the time the smoke cleared, more than 20 Panamanians and several US soldiers were dead. Panama now remembers that day as Martyrs' Day, a national day of mourning and a symbol of resistance to foreign control. For blues listeners, this might seem far from the Mississippi Delta, but the themes are familiar: a struggle for dignity, sovereignty, and the right to be seen and heard. The same way black communities in the United States fought Jim Crow and segregation, Panamanians fought for control over their own land and destiny. In the 1960s, blues, jazz, and folk musicians were increasingly tuned into these global struggles. Songs about freedom, protest, and resistance weren't just about one country, they were part of a worldwide chorus. January 9th in Panama is one of those days where the world's fight for justice echoes the emotional core of the blues. Now let's turn our attention to the political climate. Those riots in Panama weren't just a local flare-up. They were the product of decades of resentment over a treaty that gave the United States control over the Canal Zone back in 1903. Panamanians saw the zone as a colonial enclave in the middle of their country. When students tried to raise their flag on January 9, 1964, they were challenging that arrangement head-on. The violence that followed shocked both nations and helped push the United States toward a new course, eventually leading to the Torrijos-Carter Treaties of 1977, which set the stage for Panama to regain control of the canal. In other words, January 9 became a turning point in the story of US power and Latin American sovereignty. Now, for blues history, this matters because the 1960s were a decade when African American musicians were increasingly aware of their place in a global struggle. The same years that saw civil rights marches in the American South also saw anti-colonial movements in Africa, Asia, and Latin America. Blues and jazz artists toured abroad, playing festivals, and met activists who saw their music as a soundtrack for liberation. January 9 in Panama is one more reminder that the blues doesn't just speak to one country's pain, it resonates with anyone living under the weight of justice. Now, of course, no discussion of blues history would be complete without exploring the music itself. If you flip through the music headlines for January 9, you won't find a classic blues record hitting the charts. Instead, you'll see something like this. January 9, 1976, Queen's Bohemian Rhapsody began a 9-week run at number 1 on the UK pop chart, and it was far from a 12-bar shuffle. But listen beneath the surface. By the mid-1970s, rock music was built on a foundation of blues, distorted guitar tones, backbeat grooves, and vocal phrasing that owed everything to black American singers. Bands like Queen, Led Zeppelin, and countless others were operating in a musical world shaped by decades of blues innovation. January 9, with Bohemian Rhapsody at the top, It's a snapshot of a movement when blues had already seeped so deeply into rock that most listeners didn't even hear it as blues anymore. It was just the sound of popular music. So musically, January 9 is less about a single blues milestone and more about context. It's a reminder that by the time we get to the 1970s, blues has already done its work. It's in the DNA of rock, folk and pop, even when the word blues doesn't appear on the label. January 9 has also marked the beginning of life for some incredible musicians whose work is deeply connected to the blues. First up is Joan Baez. Born January 9, 1941, she emerged from the American folk revival of the late 50s and early 60s with a clear, haunting voice and a fierce commitment to social justice. Baez marched with Dr. King, sang at rallies and used her platform to protest war and racism. While her core repertoire is folk, she is always drawn from spirituals, work songs and blues-inflected material, songs that carry the same emotional weight and social urgency as the blues. Baez's presence in our January 9 story reminds us that the blues isn't just a chord progression, it's a way of telling the truth about the world. Her protest songs sit in the same family as blues laments about chain gangs, lynchings and hard times. Different style, but the same spirit. Then there's Jimmy Page, born January 9 in 1944. Before he became the guitar wizard of Led Zeppelin, Page was a session musician steeped in American blues records. When Zeppelin hit the scene, their sound was a thunderous fusion of British rock and African American blues, reworking songs by Willie Dixon and others, sometimes controversially into new forms. Page's riffs, solos and production style helped define hard rock and heavy metal, but at their core, many of those songs are electrified blues. His birthday on January 9 ties the date to one of the most influential conduits of blues into global rock culture. Every time a young guitarist learns a Zeppelin riff, they're touching a line that runs back to Muddy Waters, Howlin' Wolf and the Delta. We can also tip our hat to Dave Matthews, born January 9 in 1967 in South Africa. His band's music blends rock, jazz and folk, but the improvisational spirit and groove often lean on blues-based harmony and phrasing. Matthews' global background and electric sound shows how, by the late 20th century, blues had become part of a worldwide musical vocabulary, no longer confined to one country or one genre. Sadly, January 9 has also been a day of loss, though once again, the story is much about what's missing as what's recorded. When we look at lists of musicians who died on January 9, we find classical composers, conductors, and a scattering of popular performers, but no widely recognised core blues artists whose death are firmly documented on this date. On the surface, it looks like a quiet day, but that quiet points to a deeper truth. Many early blues musicians lived and died far from the spotlight. Their births weren't recorded in hospital ledgers, their deaths didn't make the newspapers. The absence of famous blues passings on January 9 is a reminder of how much we still don't know, how many voices were lost without dates, without obituaries, without headstones. In a way, that silence is part of the blues itself. It's the sound of lives that mattered deeply to their communities, even if the official records never caught up. That's all the time we have for today's episode of Blues Moments in Time. Join us again next time as we continue to explore the fascinating history of the blues.